that amount of viewership that they already have, and it seems to be ever growing. So, Big Billy, what do you think?
Esports in general, one day it'll make money. It's a black hole today, of course. The fundamental difference between esports and all other spectator sports in the world is all other spectator sports charge you to watch them, but not esports, right? I mean, if you want to go into the arena and watch the players, sure. But broadcast rights right now are, that's Twitch and others. And the model has grown up where you don't charge those broadcasters to do that. That might change in the future, but there was a lot of value sucked out of esports to now Amazon, the owner of Twitch. So that has to be either fixed or a new business model must be created.
Sure.
And it could just be, live events. That could be the revenue model. And that may work perfectly fine. I don't know. I do think that digital assets, NFTs, whatever you want to call them, could be a major part of the esports revenue model. But the esports teams are probably going to have to eventually get to a point where they say, you know what? Unlike traditional spectator sports, we're not going to make all these great broadcaster royalties, so we have to be a little bit more creative.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It does seem right now the main revenue model for esports is advertising, right? Because if you have the viewers, you can
I
sell
think the main
space.
revenue model is raising money from investors.
That is also true. I guess that's true of any startup, but yeah. But if you can show that revenue on the books and you already have people viewing and you can sell ad space, I think investors might be more interested if they think they can get their money back. So yeah, that's really interesting. And that leaves us talking about the asset side of things. So non-fungible, fungible, I think everybody pretty much gets the idea of what that means. Are you familiar with the ERC 1155, the bundled token? So the main sponsor, Anthem Gold Hercules, they actually just swapped all of their tokens out for ERC 1155, which is interesting because they're a supply chain company. And they just released a big Medium article that said they're the only supply chain company doing this aside from blockchain gaming companies or gamified companies. I believe Engine created that protocol and it was just accepted as a standard maybe a few months back. So what are your thoughts on bundling tokens? Because some people say it defeats the purpose of having these separate tokens, but some say it's more efficient because you can send fungible and non-fungible assets and other assets all in one. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sure, why not? We're in experimental stage at this point with blockchain. Anything that complicates things, I think, is bad because consumers want everything to be convenient. Convenience also means easy to understand, of which, of course, blockchain is not. But it's getting there. And so any innovation you can do is wonderful. We've seen lots of DApp game companies doing new gaming mechanics, which are impossible probably to do in a traditional game, because in traditional games you don't have this notion of immutable tokens that you can take from the game and do something with. So I like that mechanic, walking around and mining essentially as a built-in gameplay. That is one great use of a blockchain, allowing people, of course, to take those things and then to trade them on other third-party exchanges, which today virtually no established video game company allows you to do. Remember, you don't own the virtual items in a video game. You don't even own the video game when you buy it. You are licensing it for entertainment purposes. And that's okay, except if people are spending thousands of dollars on virtual items, then it seems not such a great idea that, wow, I really don't own this. Why would I pay $1,000 for it? So the ERC 751, 721 first standard was good. ERC 20 was, of course, a great standard if you wanted to do an ICO. 1155 is more about advancing how these things are going to be used within the game. Now, my biggest issue with anything on Ethereum, as I said before, is it takes too long and it's too expensive until they shift off of proof of work.
Right.
So were I a video game company, I wouldn't be doing it on Ethereum. I'd be doing it on many other chains, but it would start with any chain that has a proof of stake or a DPoS mechanism. Delegated proof of stake meaning, even faster.
Right.
But aside from that, it's tough to do.
Sure. Yeah, I've encountered a few companies in the space that are, mainly one's called Silicon Nexus. They have a Droid token, and they are partnering with people like Dave & Buster's and other family entertainment centers, so that when people play on site there, they can take away these digital assets instead of just a stuffed animal or whatever else they're going to win, behind the cage or whatever. They can actually take a digital asset because they're gamers, right? A lot of them, you can go plug it in or trade it on an exchange or put it in the game and trade it there potentially. So that's pretty interesting to see the real world connecting with things like this already. So as I said, like right now, a lot of these games are running fully on chain, but there's ways around that people can still use and gain value out of the assets. So that's interesting. I got a question for you about your new Wax 2.0, would you call it? Yeah, Wax 2.0. Is it, you made it pretty easy for people that are built on EOS to swap and build it on Wax, right? It's just what do you call it, a transition? Right. So are you seeing good adoption with that? Are you seeing a lot of usership right now?
Yeah, absolutely. We're rolling out something in addition to just the new chain. Our view is that it's very hard to use a blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's hard to work on the internet without what became a browser.
Sure.
It's hard to work on a blockchain without some consumer convenient tool. Today you got MetaMask and Scatter. Those browsers are okay, they're not great. They still take a lot of education. So we have built a service layer that sits on top of the blockchain with a bunch of microservices, simple stuff like social logons, because most people want to do it that way these days. Making it much easier to trade, doing trade offers, very similar to what CSGO did, and what Valve did. So simple trade offers that don't require all the public key, private key sort of thing. That's useful. I think it's more useful when you're dealing with store of value type assets than when you're dealing with video gaming assets.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, unless it's a really, really valuable game asset, you're probably not super worried about keeping the private key offline and everything. So do you give people the opportunity are you subsidizing the cost of new accounts, or is there a cost for new accounts?
Yeah, I mean, it's today on DPoS chains anyway, you have to pay in order to create the account. So it's sort of like, how do you want to pay? Do you want to pay up front? Well, that would be a DPoS style blockchain. You need to dedicate so many tokens to rent the services of that blockchain. The alternative is in proof of work, you pay as you go. You pay nothing up front, and every time you do a transaction, you pay. Now, the difference with, let's say, DPoS is when you're done with using that account, you can get your coins back, right? So it's just used to rent the services for as long as you need them. I like that model better just from a consumer standpoint rather than nickel and diming them every time they try to do something. So, but today, yes, we subsidize the account to the extent for new customers, we will give them enough tokens so that they can rent the services needed to actually run the chain. And that still is not ideal,
Step forward.
It's a step forward, but it's not perfect. So there's still a lot of innovation has to happen here. Despite that, there are thousands and thousands of people who are building video games using blockchain.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting, and I believe you don't quote me on this, but I believe that WeChat has released some blockchain gaming. I don't know if they were dApps, fully dApps, but there was some blockchain gaming aspect that was released. Somebody from Coco's BCX told me this a while back. Have you heard much about that? That WeChat's actually rolling out some games, and which is huge because they're obviously one of the biggest chat portals in the world and gaming portals. I mean, a lot of people in China use WeChat and Alipay to pay for everything. They just scan a QR code. So that's
I agree.
that's promising for us because how do you send an asset or pay somebody with crypto? You scan a QR code, right? So they're already doing that. Like the majority of people in big cities over there, they just use a QR code to pay for everything. It links to their bank through Alipay or WeChat, and that's it. So I think those are really good places to adopt those games because they already have billions of users.
Yeah, messaging platforms are a great way to integrate games. There's another company here that we ran into yesterday called Bionic Trader, and it's a 3D version of trading platforms. However, they've also integrated the technology into messaging apps, which I think will be huge. Gamifying messaging apps will definitely change gaming and facilitate new models for revenue.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good way to make it simple, right? Because if it's a mobile messaging app, chances are it's not going to be a World of Warcraft type of game where you have a full-on guild and you're attacking something else, and you have millions of people playing together all around the world. It'll probably be something more like Candy Crush that allows you to earn. I think Amy Wan, you're familiar with Save, a lot of pushback when you're doing the financial services route. So again, going back to the point that games are an easy, right now, scalable solution that people can actually use this tech. So it's exciting, and it's great that you guys are all building in the industry. So thank you for doing that. Megan, I have a question that relates to you because Tencent, I believe, is the biggest game company in the world. Is that correct? One of them. Depends on what stat you're using to measure that, right? Yeah.
People versus revenues. It's probably people. It is.
People like users. Yeah. So they've invested in many companies. They bought up many companies like Riot, Fortnite, all the big ones. They own WeChat. I don't know if they own 100% of it, but a lot of it. So yeah, they're definitely well positioned to spread mass adoption here. So have anybody here worked with Tencent or any of these subsidiary companies?
Some of their companies I know are looking at, and these are China-based companies. So with I think China's adoption of their stablecoin, a lot of the companies they'll feel more comfortable from a regulatory standpoint of integrating sort of digital assets into their platforms. And yeah, Tencent is a great example. And if they roll out digital items using non-fungible token protocol, that would be incredible. It would be interesting to see them to release the items because now the items are stuck in those particular games. So if you're trading items in Fortnite, you can't move them off and trade them on a secondary marketplace. Like William said earlier, you don't actually own those items. So this would give you the ability to own them too.
And I think there's a model where there can be some items that people can own, but other items that maybe the game still maintains and you're essentially leasing it from them.
Interesting. And like you said earlier, tying real world assets to these digital items, I think that's another huge wave of innovation that's going to come in gaming. I do see digital items, specifically 3D digital items, tied to real world physical items and assets like consumer products, sneakers and watches and handbags.
Absolutely. Things like that. I believe we were at an event the other night, Charles Hoskinson from Cardano, he was saying they just did something with New Balance, I believe, right? They tokenized the shoes, allow people to have a certificate of ownership. They were validating on site. So that's pretty cool to see that.
That's the start of it. Louis Vuitton just did a partnership with League of Legends, which is the biggest MMOG gaming platform. And I think that they'll create these skins, and those can be easily replicated. And they'll want to have a solution for that, and that is creating a non-fungible token backed by those skins.
Right, so there's a lot of corruption and fraud that will come from the ease
That's
of replicability.
Why one of the best use cases for a blockchain is in gaming.
Yeah, that's why the US dollar is still the most counterfeited bill on the planet. It's not that hard to counterfeit compared to others that are out there, and certainly compared to digital assets and NFTs. So that's it for today. Any closing remarks on blockchain gaming and inspiration for people that might be building out there? Because we definitely want to inspire the people actually building these things, especially if you have platforms you want them to build on.
I just say if you're going to build a blockchain-based game, then understand what it is about the blockchain that's adding to the game. And it's not easy to figure all that stuff out because you can do a lot on the blockchain, but a lot of what you would do on a blockchain you probably don't need to. Right? That's why we look really closely at the mechanic that they're trying to exploit that's blockchain related. There's a couple today, hopefully there'll be a lot more in the future, But of course, you don't just want to, okay, build on a blockchain because why not?
Yeah.
You must really focus on what is the user getting value out of because you're doing that. And one value, as we talked about, is just ownership in itself. But there's got to be others.